In considering the statistics of the risk factors that lead to young offenders developing mental health issues, parental imprisonment was one of the highest contributing factors. In the 2009 New South Wales Young People in Custody survey, it was found that 45% of participants' parents had been in prison, with 10% of children's parents currently in prison. Child abuse and neglect limits psychosocial development and contributes to higher rates of mental illness, early school leaving, and antisocial behaviour. Children with mental health diagnoses are also more vulnerable to homelessness, with homelessness itself being linked within imprisonment within this population. This is suggested to be due to their high visibility to police. Homeless children often resort to crime to compensate a lack of resources, such as income and shelter. This pattern is particularly evident within young homeless with mental health issues. It is worth noting that after being confined to correctional facilities, young offenders are more likely to become homeless due to a lack of support and suitable programs on release, which in turn result in an intensification of mental health problems and an increased chance of reoffending. Mentally ill offenders can be particularly vulnerable to policy shifts and changes, including the recent changes to the Bail Act. Currently, 60% of young people are on remand in New South Wales for breaching bail conditions, with these arising from a failure to comply with welfare-focused conditions of bail. As of the 28th of January 2015, the Bail Act 2013 New South Wales was amended to incorporate new, more stringent requirements before bail is to be granted to a person accused of committing a crime. Whilst there is no singular or outlining cause for the change, incidents and high-profile media cases such as the Sydney siege and the murder of Jill McGarr drew significant scrutiny to the bail laws and as not being strong enough. This in turn caused undue pressure on the legal community and the justice system and resulted in an urgent review of the Act. The changes to the Bail Act concern two main areas. However, only one of these is applicable to children. One of the amendments to the Bail Act, and the one that primarily concerns children, is the introduction of unacceptable risk test. This requires the prosecution to determine the offender's possess bail concerns. These concerns, listed in Section 17 of the Act, state that if there is a risk that the offender will perform any of the following, then bail must be refused. When considering risks, whether or not they are present, Section 18 dictates the following matters can be taken into account to determine whether or not there is risk. The amendment to the Act have made it harder for all offenders to get bail, but this problem has been made even harder for young offenders. The main concern arising from the new amendment is the lack of awareness for mental health. Mental health is not considered under the options for consideration in Section 18, and as such, any mental health condition that the young offenders may have are not taken into consideration when deciding whether there is risk of bail. It is suggested that Section 18 is amended to include mental health as a factor to take into account when considering the risk factors for bail. This is supported by the fact that young offenders are often faced with difficult social-economic factors that may lead to them not complying with the new stringent conditions regarding bail. For example, under the new amendments, if there is a risk that the offender will fail to appear for proceedings, bail must be refused. However, young offenders with mental health concerns often have issues with permanent housing, are homeless, or have disciplinary problems that lead to them not respecting or adhering to curfews. Furthermore, another issue that currently arises under the new amendment is the lack of legislative support for young offenders who do not have permanent residence. Victoria legislation has a unique provision wherein a child is not to be refused bail on the grounds that he or she does not have accommodation. Such provision would be worth considering adopting into the New South Wales context. Additionally, Victoria also has a bail facilitation program that seeks to prevent the inappropriate remand of young people. South Australia has a similar provision. It should be noted that New South Wales has no such provision. The Australian Law Reform Commission has recommended that a similar provision needs to be put in place in a New South Wales context, and that a lack of accommodation should not be reason enough to deny a young person bail. Additionally, the use of a bail hostel, such as those in other states, would alleviate the problem in New South Wales.
Created using Powtoon.